Hello, my name is Amanda Del Tubia. I am a spiritual healer, certified life coach, and women's empowerment coach, helping women connect their lives in mind, body, and spirit. Today, we are going to be talking about boundaries, what they are, setting healthy boundaries, and some examples for you to incorporate into your own life that helps you create the life that you want, healthy relationships, and not putting up with bullshit from other people. As women, we are always taught that we have to put other people's considerations, thoughts, feelings first. And now we're realizing that that doesn't really work for us anymore. So, how do we evaluate and figure out what boundaries work for us? So, we're going to talk about that more today. So, again, what is the definition of a boundary? What are they? Boundaries are literally the interpersonal boundaries are what defines your identity, integrity, and security in relationships. It's the dividing line of what behavior you will tolerate from others. Usually, this is like the end. A boundary is a synonym for the limit, the threshold, the line or place or limit that should not and will not be crossed moving forward. So, this is, again, it's not too much to establish a boundary because this is our limit. This is our spiritual, emotional, and physical limit of what we will tolerate as a human moving throughout this world. And it is okay to ask for that. It is okay to ask for that. You are allowed to have your own bodily autonomy. You are allowed to feel safe and comfortable and secure in situations. And any situation or any person or conversation that does not make you feel that way does not belong in your life. So I appreciate you taking this time and listening to this today because it is so important as women. From the day that we are born, our boundaries are getting violated. Our boundaries are questioned. Our boundaries are gaslit. We are always taught to put other people's feelings, thoughts, and emotions first. We are often blamed for other people's reactive behaviors. We are often guilt tripped into thinking it's our fault for saying and doing things that resonate with us. And I'm inviting you to really explore and release those abusive times because it was not your fault. You were not being too much. You were not asking for something that was so far-fetched and so out of reach. You were being human. You were not tolerating in those moments being yelled at or abused, or your physical boundaries were being pushed. A little bit about me. I'm the founder and creator of amandadeltubia.com. Again, like I said, I am a certified life coach and spiritual healer that just found that my life was completely exhausting when I was giving myself to others, to the point where I was completely dry, numb, and realized that my life up until that point was of abuse and making myself small and feeling that if I was a big enough martyr that people would love me. If I did what people said, people would love me. If I fell into these societal expectations and paradigms, people would love me. If I was a closed off boss ass bitch that just worked my ass off, I would be compensated and appreciated. None of these things were true because I was not living my authentic life. I was not honoring my soul. I was not honoring who I was. I was listening to what other people were trying to tell me to be or fighting against it. Again, putting that energy into that battle, that internal battle that we all face, especially as women, to get and do and be what we want, but also having this really contradictory fact that every step of the way we're going to be questioned, abused, gaslit, feeling unsafe, feeling like we're asking and being too much. And I am inviting you to release that feeling of being too much. I'm inviting you to fucking up your boundaries because these previous boundaries have not been working. And I know it's difficult and I know it's scary, but this is a great way to maintain your authentic self and also figure out who you want in your life. So you are allowed to say no without explanation. You are allowed to say no without explanation. And I know that this can bring up a lot of anxiety because ultimately we feel like when we do say no, that we're not going to be loved and reciprocated. Any kindness or anything, like we're not going to be respect, whatever comes up for you. Release that, because this is a way for you to figure out who you want in your life, what substantial people you want in your life, and who you want to be. So there are a lot of different ways to do this. There are people to avoid. There are ways to communicate to people to establish your boundaries in work, love, family, friends, and handling obligations too. I want you to feel like, yes, we all have obligations and we all have to do things and we all have to help and take care of other people, especially mothers. I'm not being like, oh, if you don't want to do something, like don't feed your kids. Like that's not what I'm saying. Obviously, that's stuff that we have to do. But anything else aside from taking care of ourselves and, our children that depend on us, you can create these boundaries with people. And a lot of this, I feel like, comes up with the holidays, especially. We don't have a lot coming up in the States at this time right now. I think Mother's Day is coming up in May, but that's about it. And then like Easter and stuff too, but so for these sort of scenarios where you have to show up somewhere, I want you to ask yourself, do I really want to be here, or does this feel like an obligation? Like I have to do this, but I really don't want to. That is your first indicator that a boundary is being, pushed. That's a boundary that's being pushed. When you're in a discussion with someone and they start yelling at you and raising their voice because they are not listening, they are reacting, that is a boundary being pushed. When someone says, oh, give me a hug, and you don't want to give them a hug, that is a boundary being pushed. These are just some basic examples that I want you to really think about, and I know they've happened to all of us. Another one with work. Hey, can you stay an extra hour? Or hey, can you work on this project? Or hey, can you do this for me? Or oh, I'll just handle it myself because that's easier. That is a boundary being pushed, and that is not okay. And then people gaslight you afterwards, making you think that, if you ask for that, they'll be like, oh, they'll go through their heads, oh, you've never asked for that before. You've never said that before. Why are they being this way? Oh, they're different. They're weird. They're this, they're that, blah, 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 blah. That's their own reaction because they're not used to you establishing these healthy boundaries. But I guarantee eventually they will back off. Even if they don't say it to you directly, you will feel that energetic shift when they realize that they can't take advantage of you anymore. Because that's basically what boundary crossing is. It's taking advantage of another person. It's violating their intrinsic being. It's violating them on an emotional, physical, or spiritual level to the point where they are either exhausted, upset, traumatized, you name it. We've all been there. Even if it's just a slight annoyance or a slight stressor, we don't need that. So, what are some examples to stopping your boundaries from being crossed? Here are some common phrases that I want you to start making part of your vocabulary. And I want you to repeat this mantra for me just as we start to go in. I am allowed to say no without explanation. I am allowed to say no without explanation. I am allowed to say no without explanation. Yes, yes, yes. It feels weird, but fucking do it. It is so worth it. Okay, so, and sometimes, we may need to, I will say, for some people, like family members that will not get it, for some friends that are surface level friends that just will not get it, and if they don't want to have that discussion where you deeply explain how this boundary hurts and upsets you, you don't need to do that for those people, because if it doesn't click with them, it's not going to click, and that's okay. That's on them. So by you distinctly saying your boundaries instead of saying questions or trying to have a conversation or trying to make them see your side. You are telling them your side. So it is in their mind and they cannot cross it, move around it, mutilate it, sneak around it. So keeping it simple, blunt, and factual always helps. So for invitations to things. Thank you for the invite, but I can't make it. Oh my God, thank you for the invite. I can only stay for an hour or 2 hours, 3 hours. My threshold for my parents and my family events now is 3 hours. So I know, even if I don't say it, my family knows that I will only be staying for 3 hours or shorter. That is just what I've established. And this literally only took 6 months to establish without question or guilting or, oh, please stay. It's like, no, I gotta go. It's really that easy sometimes. Because once you're setting that line, they can feel that energetic shift. They can feel that power, and they're not gonna try and push it if it's not working. Another great one is in regards to conversations. Someone saying something or doing something or talking about something you do not want to talk about. I don't want to discuss this topic anymore. I don't want to discuss this topic anymore. Let's talk about this. Or, hey, how was this? Shifting it into a lighter thing, because I feel like some people go deep. Some people want to poke buttons. Some people want to get a rile out of you, and we're not doing that shit anymore. And if it starts to escalate, you can say what you're bringing up or comparing this to is irrelevant to our discussion. So let's just drop it for a minute. Or let's just take a breather, or like, let's get back to us actually talking about this issue, which was X, right? Bringing it back around, keeping it logical, not letting our emotions get involved because we are not giving this person our time and energy that is, violating our boundaries. Another one, someone checking in on something that you really don't want to talk about. I appreciate you asking, but I'm not ready to talk about it. I appreciate you asking, but I'm not ready to talk about it. Easy peasy. Or I appreciate you bringing this up, but I don't want to talk about that right now. If someone's bringing up a topic or something, or politics, breakup, like whatever it is. If you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to talk about it. You don't have to sit and take it. We're always taught that we have to sit and take it. And again, if this conversation that you're in starts to accelerate, I'm not going to have this conversation with you if you continue to yell. I'm not going to continue having this conversation with you if you're going to call me names. I'm not going to continue this conversation since we're both raising our voices. If you continue to yell at me, I'm going to have to leave. If you continue to yell at me, I'm going to have to leave. That's another great one, because people don't even realize it because they're reactive. They're reactive to what's going on. So they're probably like, I'm not even yelling, blah, or whatever. Or trying to blame you, and just say, you're still yelling. If you continue to yell, we're not going to do this. I'm going to have to leave. It's so simple. It's so difficult in practice, but it is so simple. These lines are simple, succinct. You're not trying to change anybody else's opinion. You are letting them know what your boundary is. And that's amazing. That's amazing. So those are some verbal examples that you can take. Like, write them down if you want to. And keep to that. Another good one for work is just bringing the facts to the table. And I always advise people that have a boss or manager that is always trying to push you to overwork when you are being underpaid or undervalued, is to list the facts or the contradicting things that have been going on in the past couple weeks. Like if they're saying, oh, we want you to have a good work-life balance, or you look at your contract and suddenly you are taking on 3 times more work, bring that up and just say like, hey, I know that you want me to work more, but at this time, I'm only one person and this is what I can handle right now. Or like, hey, I know you wanted me to stay later, but I cannot stay later. I can only work 8 hours a day. Or, hey, like, I would love to take on this new client, but can we discuss my salary and maybe my current contract? Easy, simple, and just say it's too much work for one person, and you are allowed to say that. You don't want to be a person that's accidentally stuck working 70 hours a week because you feel guilty and you're still being paid the same when they could fire you at any moment. We're not doing that anymore. Who cares? We can get another job. They're lucky to have you. You are not begging for scraps and they have to stay with you. And this is for anything. This is for a relationship too. We don't have to just like take it so they stay with us and they love us. If they love you, they are going to respect and honor your boundaries. Again, these boundaries are really easy and simple, and it always, again, society has trained us to make them seem like they are really difficult or too much, or, oh, we're women, we're caregivers, we're supposed to do everything for everyone else first. But no, we're not doing that. No, 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 no. Say it to yourself. I can say no without any guilt, shame, or worry. I can say no without any guilt, shame, or worry. And this is a great way to see what relationships and what friendships you want in your life. Because if they get reactive, if they get angry, if they get confused or make passive aggressive jokes, I'll give you an example. During COVID, I'd been debating kind of clearing out my friend group because of, I was just outgrowing them on my spiritual journey. They were all very limited in their mindsets with things. I would kind of make jokes that were just not okay for me as a woman, as a radical feminist, as someone who really believes in therapy, healing, and improving your life. It was when COVID hit and I went to an outdoor hangout and I said, oh, I'm not doing hugs today. No, thank you. I kept getting pushback from everyone. They wanted explanations. They wanted to know if I was taking care of someone that was old. They wanted to say like, oh, like if you have another drink, like you're going to want to hug me later. Like how rapey and creepy is that? Me just saying no and saying, oh, I don't want to be touched ignited this microcosm of confusion and rejection and anger from them that I was not saying. I'm not saying you repulse me, get away. I was saying I don't want to be hugged because that's a high risk move. I'm already putting myself at risk being in a place with multiple people during this time when our numbers are really high in the location that I'm at, and I'm not going to risk it, and I don't want to. So if I don't want to, why can't you say, oh my God, okay, yeah, air hugs from here, whatever. But it was constantly being pushed, and if it's something that simple from just like not wanting to hug someone, yeah, that's a sign that maybe this person shouldn't be in your life. This is great with kids too. This starts so young, and I think that's why the physical contact, the obligatory physical contact, needs to be revoked. You don't need to have to hug or kiss any family member. Any family member. Your children don't need to hug or kiss any family member if they don't want to. You have to ask them first. Hey, Susie, do you want to hug Grandpa Joe today to say hi? And if he's like, oh, come on, and she's hiding behind your leg, and she says no, or I don't want to, don't say, oh, come on, it's not that big of a deal. That's boundary crossing. You are teaching your child boundary crossing, and like this is the start of, people being entitled to other people's bodies, primarily men to women, because they want to treat us like a object, a commodity, an exchange for something. We can talk about reward systems with that too, like withholding affection from a partner to get what you want. That's more manipulation stuff, and we can talk about that more in depth too as we go on. But I also want to, as we close out, I think we talked about a lot of this stuff, and I hope that you will implement this in your daily life slowly but surely. The best way to do this is through practice. People to avoid. I want to talk about people that do not have their own boundaries that will, without a doubt, cross yours. And then you will find yourself drained, tired, exhausted, frustrated, etc. People to avoid: emotionally needy. Someone that is always coming to you for advice. Someone that is always coming to you to vent. Someone that's always coming to you for validation. Someone who has a poor sense of self. They don't know who they are. They think they're defined by other people and things, or their job or money, or showing this facade of who they are. That falsity is a sign that someone will be a boundary crosser, because if they're just doing stuff for other people, they're not going to know when they're crossing your boundaries. And that's the thing, most of the time people don't know. Just tell them. Just keep telling them. Keep it succinct. Matter of fact. Don't need to explain why. Don't need to explain where it comes from. Don't need to say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. No apologies, none of that crap. Another person to avoid: anyone that lashes out at you, blames you, or tries to guilt trip you into changing your mind. So this will be a person that will take a tone, an unnecessary tone with you. It'll either be sarcasm, gaslighting that we talked about, like, well, you did this, blaming you, switching the narrative. I wouldn't be acting like this if you didn't do this. Or try to guilt you, or being like, oh, I had such a hard day, like, or just like, I really want you right now, will you have said, like, it could be anything. Like, the thing that popped into my mind is guilting you, like guilting you to watch someone's kids. That's a great example. If you want to, like, your friend really was like, oh, like, I really need your help, this and that. If you don't want to, you don't have to do it. You know that you're still a good friend. You know that you're still a good person. But if you can't watch someone's kids last minute and you don't fucking want to, don't do it. If you don't feel like you're in the mood to have sex and your partner is guilting you or being like, oh, come on, please, blah, blah, you don't have to. If you wanted to have sex, you would tell them. If you wanted to go to a party, you would tell them. If someone's like, oh my God, please, I really want to see you there. Oh my God, please, one more drink, this and that. Oftentimes we cave into that because it's better than hearing this person whining or yelling or bitching and moaning. And we don't have to do that. If you keep it succinct and keep saying the same thing over and over again, you turn into a beautiful boundary robot where eventually they will just stop and give up because they're just like, oh, okay, like, this is weird, this is new, I don't know how to handle this, I've never had boundaries before in my life, oh my God, what am I gonna do? So they'll stop. They will stop bothering you with that stuff, I swear to God. With people that, again, going back to this friend group that I had to leave, once I established my boundaries, none of them contacted me after 2 months. And this was after years of abuse, pushing boundaries, trying to buy me gifts to make me feel better, or apologizing but then also blaming me and things. Just like too much energy, too much immature behavior, such a poor sense of self in all of these people, which was really unfortunate. And another thing, which I think is such a great indicator if you need to keep this person in your life or if you need to tighten up your boundaries, is every time you see them or every time you talk to them, you do not feel happy. You do not feel joy. You do not feel stimulated and content. You feel exhausted. And I know you know what I'm talking about. That sheer exhaustion of someone just, I call it emotional dumping, someone emotionally dumping on you. Someone taking all of your resources, someone treating you like a goddamn therapist. And you can say that. That's another great one that I forgot to include before. If someone keeps talking to you about stuff that you can't emotionally handle, that is too deep, too dark, too much, you can say, hey, like, I love you and I understand where you're coming from, but I am not your therapist. I really feel like you should talk to somebody. I know someone great. refer them to me. Refer them to somebody else that you know. If you have a therapist, send them your therapist's number. I literally did this to someone because they wouldn't stop talking to me about this stuff. I forwarded her my therapist's phone number. And guess what? She never emotionally dumped on me again because I said, like, I understand where you're coming from. And you can still have that understanding and love while setting those boundaries. All of these boundaries are coming from love for yourself and love for others, because when we start to create those boundaries, we are showing the world that we can take care of ourselves, that we can love ourselves, and that we can show that love to other people by establishing those boundaries, and hope that they do the same by leading with example. So I hope that this was helpful. I hope this little boundary lesson was useful to you. Again, feel free to contact me at any time through my website or at amandadeltuvia.com. You can email admin@amandadeltuvia.com or my direct email, amanda@amandadeltuvia.com. Find me on Facebook under my name, on Instagram at Amanda Delt, and I am sending you all the love and all the healing energy, and go out there and make those boundaries without apology. Do it. It is okay for you to say no without explanation. I'm Amanda Deltuvia, spiritual life healer and coach, and I love you all.